Hi, everybody. Oh, sweet. That really works. My name is Omojola. I'm the head of product at a company called Carbon Health. I previously ran the banking product at Cash App at Square for a few years before this. And everything that we've been talking about here, instant payments, ledgers, and reconciliation, are near and dear to my heart. Today, we're going to have some leaders who are working on ledgers to talk about how they track transactions at scale. We'll have John Bittner, who's CEO and co-founder at Splitwise, Doug McKay, director of engineering at ClassPass, and Koji Murase, who's the product manager leading ledgers at Modern Treasury on stage. Can I have the panelists out on stage with me? Awesome. Let's take a seat. So just to start, John and Doug, can you talk a little bit about what your companies do and how payments are involved? John, do you want to start?
Sure, sounds good. I'm John Bittner. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Splitwise, and we help people reduce the stress and awkwardness that money places on relationships, usually around people who are traveling together, who live together, might be in a romantic relationship or part of the same family, coworkers. Splitwise is a very simple, easy ledger that you can use in your phone. It's a free app. You can organize all your shared expenses, see who owes who. In terms of how it relates to payments, payments are kind of the end of the who do I owe and why journey. Once you know, oh, it's the end of the month, I've got to settle up for rent and the bills, something like that, you'll make a payment with a friend using a proprietary Splitwise payment method or Venmo or PayPal or any kind of payment you need to make. Yeah.
Go
ahead. Doug McKay, Director of Engineering at ClassPass. So ClassPass is the largest aggregator of fitness and wellness classes for consumer membership. Our consumers have access to over millions of experiences through 30 countries throughout the globe. And we work directly with vendors to allow them to merchandise their excess inventory, to find new customers, and also to generate new revenue streams. And so through our subscription model, our subscribers will purchase credits each month, and they'll use those credits to book reservations at yoga, at a yoga class, spin, maybe a massage, or even at the nail salon. And so at the end of the month, we'll tally up those reservations, and then we'll issue payments to the appropriate vendors.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So let's maybe, starting with you again, Doug, talk about how is your company tracking money movement prior to working with Modern Treasury?
Sure. Before we moved to Modern Treasury, we were using an internal Postgres database within AWS, and we noticed that we had this big batch process that would periodically batch up and sum up all the reservation data, and we were looking to Modern Treasury to kind of help us. One, as we were looking to retrofit this system to be more scalable for our system, to bring in best-in-class accounting principles like immutability and also
double entry.
Sorry,
double entry.
Yeah, double entry booking. Thank you. So which would gain us the ability to kind of have traceability and looking back into kind of what happened at any given time.
Yeah. Well, so Splitwise really is a ledger product in our core interpersonal ledger. We have tens of millions of customers around the world, and if you're doing interpersonal ledgering for like informal IOUs with friends, that's kind of like a bespoke need. But when we decided that we were going to create a first-party financial services product in partnership with a bank, we rethought from first principles about how we wanted to approach money movement and ledgering for funds that were on deposit essentially with the bank. And of course, like most engineers don't grow up learning about double entry accounting principles, and we wanted, there's just so many benefits to using like a best-in-class ledger integrated with payments, integrated with reconciliation. So we actually came to Modern Treasury through a referral from our issuing processor for one of our products, and we're just like, oh yeah, this is the way we're going to handle tracking money movements for when the funds are with our bank partner. It's a whole different kind of product from what we've been doing.
I think, by the way, ClassPass and Splitwise were pretty sophisticated starting out already. But typically what we see is companies are really focused on launching their product. They just want to get their app out there. They don't want to deal with a separate database just for tracking financial transactions. And that works starting out, but a lot of companies come to us later because they say, we have 5 products and 5 kind of informal ledgers built out. And anytime we want to answer a question about money movement, we have to go to the 5 separate teams and have finance and engineering work together to figure out what happened. So that's kind of the starting point we see pretty frequently.
Yep. What were you looking for when you picked Modern Treasury?
Yeah, I think we're really picky with vendors, and we like to build in-house. So it was really this concept of like, well, actually, what we really care about launching this product, we want to make sure that we have a ledger that's really thoughtful about the way it handles auditability, immutability, annotation. There's some really cool Modern Treasury ledger features that really drew us into the product. The other thing was that, from a compliance point of view and from a internal controls, security, being able to, walk through all the operational scenarios with downtime and stuff, it's actually wonderful to have a separate third-party ledger system of record that you can treat as canonical. So we were looking for scalability. We were looking for a super sophisticated team with like a product roadmap that we could get behind, because we knew, like Koji was saying, that we were not going to want to. Splitwise is a very small team. We have just 35 total full-time employees serving tens of millions of customers. We were not going to want to spin off a whole engineering group to work on how ledgers should work in general. We wanted to get our product to market. So reconciliation was not what we were looking for, but when we realized how good it was, we realized that we had found something really amazing with Modern Treasury.
Yeah. Doug, you want to take a crack?
Yeah, so I mentioned the batch process. So we basically had a process that worked well for our team that allowed us to scale from a small startup into a medium growth size company. But we noticed that as we were growing, that our payouts in kind of generating that kind of those payout numbers for each venue was taking longer and longer each month. And we found ourselves babysitting and doing a lot of that sort of hand-holding throughout those processes. And it's not really something you want, ideally to have your engineering team doing. So as we were looking, that one of the things we wanted to solve was scalability, like John mentioned. But we also, like I said, wanted to bring in, we weren't experts in accounting. So we wanted to bring in some good accounting principles. So we looked to Modern Treasury. And so throughout the process, we were able to bring in those kind of best-in-class practices and also start streaming data into their platforms so that our accounting team now has up-to-date information throughout the month. And they don't have to wait to the end of the month or run a report or wait for Tableau or something like that.
Yeah. I think you're both touching on a really important point that I've experienced, and I think both of you have experienced. When you're building a ledgering product, it's not just what you're building for the customer. Operational teams, finance teams, accounting teams, they all need access to these, and the Modern Treasury Ledger product, I mean, I'll let you speak to it, but it actually does enable these other parties to engage.
Yeah, I mean, no engineer wants to build a ledger internally. I think that might resonate with some of the folks here. It certainly resonates with teams we talk to that have built ledgers over and over again at different companies that they've worked at. And it's just not really differentiated work. I mean, ClassPass, your core focus is partnering with the best wellness studios, delivering a great user experience. It's not figuring out how to make the credits and debits match up. So we make it easier to kind of abstract that away and make sure you're focusing on your core business.
Awesome. Can the two of you share what it looks like when something goes wrong with ledgering?
You want to start?
Sure, why not? Well, I think it's funny you say that, Io. When we were getting started on building Splitwise Pay, this co-branded product we have with a bank, we read your blog post from your days, presumably inspired by some of your experience, knowing that ledgering going wrong could create just an absolute tangle of trouble. And we know that as well from our core ledger, tracking interpersonal debts, that you really have to make sure it zeroes out. So, I mean, we've been fortunate because we started from day one with Modern Treasury to not have like any really big tire fires. But yeah, if you were trying to, I think you could like look at the news in any given week this year and hear about a financial services company or a fintech partner who lost track of a few $1 million or a few billion, and it's incredibly important, right? If you're building a ledger that's supposed to reconcile to a bank account, that is a first-class, what is some existential risk to a company. So we've just taken that unbelievably seriously, and Modern Treasury is like the perfect tool to plug into that sort of compliance, business continuity thing. I think some of the things that can go wrong that are really common that have been thought about by Modern Treasury and that we had to think about were typically around timing of payments. We don't live in a fully real-time world yet, so this transaction is in this day on this time zone. Those are the kinds of things you end up chasing later. Or and if you want a ledger that you can fully reconstruct, it's immutable. You can look at a balance in any given day. You can run into edge cases for sure. But even when you're doing everything right, but it's it can go way more wrong than I've ever experienced. I'm confident of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add on with that I think a lot of the issues that since moving to Modern Treasury, the issues tend to be more like the close of month and kind of explaining what that looks like with the venue. And sometimes we'll have updates to our reservations that happen after close of month, and that kind of creates just a kind of a disconnection. So but Modern Treasury enables us to look back through and see what went into a payout at any one time. So we always have that kind of ability.
Yeah, we hear so many nightmare stories from homegrown ledgering systems. I remember talking to an early engineer at a payments company you all would know, and he was saying for a long time they would track credits and debits separately in different tables. And their definition of ledgering working was that that the gap between those two be no more than 0.5%. So that's millions of dollars by the time they were hitting scale. And yeah, when they'd have to figure out what was happening with those millions of dollars, they'd have finance come in, they'd say, why was the balance this today but this yesterday? It's a whole mess that you have to sort out. The other thing I think we see pretty frequently is the speed of execution getting slower. I talked to a big insurance marketplace where their billing and ledgering system was so fragile that every time they launched a new feature or new product, they'd have to spend literally months figuring out how would it plug into the billing system and how would they do calculations to figure out what the ledger balances were.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. There is this strange existential risk when launching new products that don't tie to the ledger correctly and everybody in the organization's assumptions about where the money should be that can kind of run out of control when you're a fast-growing company.
I think if you're not implementing something like Modern Treasury, you can create or destroy money in different departments, and things can go horribly wrong.
Agreed. So ultimately, you both decided to use a purpose-built ledger. So when and why would a company outsource its ledger instead of building it itself? And maybe Koji, go first, and then.
Yeah, like I said, I think a lot of the companies that we work with, they're changing their industries in huge ways. But ledgering is often not core of what they do. So when we start talking to them, we say, how many resources are you spending on just figuring out what your user balances are or what you're showing to finance or data? And often it's a huge amount, and it's something that can really be abstracted away when they work with a managed database like ours.
Doug?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to the fact that our core business is not about accounting. I mean, you could probably argue that it is, but it's more about connecting consumers with great experiences and also connecting the vendors with those consumers. So I think if we talk a little bit about our engineering team, I mean, we're not accountants. We don't have that trade built into us. So I think being able to use a modern treasury to get those principles enabled us to move closer to our accounting department, and that's been really a great process. And I think throughout the process of integrating, we learned more about what accounting did every month, and we came to find out that their process included these individual relationships with various vendors that they would say have a revenue agreement and essentially loan them money up front to bring them on, and then they would pay that back over time throughout the monthly payments. And so they were managing all of that manually throughout spreadsheets, and it's very extremely manual process. And so with Modern Treasury, as part of that project, we expanded it to kind of, as we're streaming data into the Modern Treasury platform, also account for those agreements. And so that they can look at just so they can look at what are my cost of goods this month. I can also look at what those agreement balances are. Yeah. And it's been a really great ride.
Awesome. Well, it's funny because I'm sure that for many of the folks who are considering purchasing a product like Modern Treasury, maybe ledgering isn't their core business. It really kind of is Splitwise's core business, but I still think that there were basically 3 reasons that drove us to want to sort of buy here, or to work with a partner instead of build. And I think you still have to ask yourself, even if it's something kind of in your wheelhouse, am I better off amortizing the cost of a ledger as a foundational technology over all of the other customers who need ledgers, or devoting a product team? And especially if you're building a consumer-focused app, you really want to be as lean as possible on what you're willing to take on and what your team really needs to be the best in the world at. So for us, and I'm really picky with vendors, but I think if you find the right technology partner for a solution that completely solves a well-scoped problem with a really good problem statement and a really good set of metaphors that you're depending on, that can be an awesome accelerant for a small team. So for us, it was definitely, we thought it would speed up product development. I think I've touched a little bit on the sort of compliance. If you have external stakeholders like in the financial services world, auditability, there's a whole new level of credibility that you can bring to the table if you're working with an external ledger that you don't have 100% database and code access to. It creates a level of trust. That's been really awesome and really important. And I think that this aspect of all the different stakeholders on the team who need to touch a ledger also is really great when you have someone who's putting a lot of thought into all those stakeholders. So some of these features we can have the finance team log in and look directly at the ledger account for a particular customer, or the support team, or a bank partner, or an auditor, or that kind of capability, and having a nice dashboard that you can bring to the table. Those are the kinds of things that you really kind of skimp on if you're a small team usually, and so it's really awesome to have a world-class product for that.
That use case, by the way, of having your bank partner look at the ledger is something we've seen coming up more and more. I think banks, also their risk tolerance has changed the past few years, and every bank has a different policy, but they all will generally require that you sub-ledger, that you maintain a ledger when you're keeping track of user funds within a single account, and some will actually want to see it and see that you've done your homework. So we actually have some bank partners that actually go in, log into ledgers, and see what user balances are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a small company trying to grow, it is really expensive commitment to not only build a performant ledger that scales with you, but also build all the interfaces and controls that you need for other, both internal and external partners to interact with it. All right. Can you actually elaborate on all the internal and external partners that are interacting with your ledgers? I think you've talked a little bit about, in your case, banking, and in your case, accounting and finance, but tell us a little bit more about that, maybe starting with you.
Sure, yeah. I think for the most part, so there's explicit kind of consumption and there's implicit consumption. with the explicit consumption, meaning those are the people that are going actually into the Modern Treasury site and they're looking on the dashboard. And those are generally auditors, or our accounting department will go in, once a month as they're kind of preparing their payouts and work through that process. We also have some moments of, hey, what happened here? And I might have a developer, going in and doing some triage. But other than that, our implicit use of Modern Treasury is, we feed that data into our system, so into our internal admin tool. We allow our account managers to get in there and to see what the balances are. We expose that to our venue partners, so we can use that same source of truth that we're using for payouts and expose that to them, so that they have complete transparency into what we're paying them out for.
And they can track their balances in real time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, near real time.
Near real time. Yeah. How about you?
I mean, yeah, I think it's a similar situation. We'll have certainly like business operations, support, finance, outside partners, auditors logging directly into the dashboard. But I mean, one of the things that I think I would have been afraid of coming into a relationship, like to buy a ledger, something as foundational as a ledger, is like, well, will we be able to write our own database queries or put our own dashboards together? Because it's a general ledger. It's not like everything very specific to our customer workflows. So yeah, we've used a couple really cool Modern Treasury features to make that kind of work for all the different teams who need it. Just to shout out some individual features, like there's like the ability to tag metadata within Modern Treasury's ledgering system is a complete game changer compared to like some of the more naive solutions that might have been built in the past, where you could like essentially make sure that you can internally reconcile everything associated with a ledger transaction to all of the different things in your product database. Or like we use a Redshift streaming product, so we get the ledger back into our Redshift for analytics. We actually do a lot of our own reporting. I'm sure Modern Treasury has some pretty cool reporting we don't use, but for custom reporting that we need for us, we'll just do it right out of Redshift. It doesn't really changing our developers' workflows too much, or our data science teams. So yeah.
Koji, can you elaborate on what you've seen across your customer base?
Yeah, John mentioned we have a feature that lets us push actually to any data warehouse that our customers have, and actually that's generally something that finance and data teams have really loved. If you look at any kind of finance or data team, their workbench is typically the data warehouse. They're compiling all their reports there. They're figuring out how to transform things to pipe into ERPs or other solutions. So being able to push at the SQL level in a really efficient way all of the data that you have in your ledger to the data warehouse has been a big game changer for customers.
Yeah, that's been great for us too. Yeah.
Awesome. This is a fun one. So ledgering involves a lot of accounting concepts. How has both your experiences been teaching yourself and your engineers accounting principles?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I feel like this is something that Modern Treasury is really good at. We actually started with Modern Treasury has a blog post series. I'm going to get the name wrong.
Accounting for developers.
Accounting for developers, and we circulated that internally. It was really got a lot of traction internally. People getting excited about that. Yeah, it's just not part of the standard engineer training, I would say, or like software engineers in college are not learning about accounting concepts generally. And no, I think it's super important. It's been really awesome. There's definitely been a learning process for some parts of the team, and I think honestly, like working directly with the Modern Treasury team has, I think, really helped our team figure out how to put, like, let's say, the ledger design central to the product design. Like, and I think it's like rearranged our product development process a little bit in a very healthy way.
Plus one, we had a great experience working with the Modern Treasury team. Starting like you said, I mean, we weren't experts in accounting, so we worked with our accounting team, worked with the Modern Treasury team to kind of arrange what the ledger kind of schema or kind of relationship should be, and it really came out, I think, with a much better product as a result of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we released Accounting for Developers a couple of years ago, and we were really surprised. It blew up on Hacker News. It was passed around at a lot of companies. I have a ton of engineers who come up to me and say, I finally understand how accounting works. people got into really spirited debates about accounting, which I didn't expect as well. But look, there's always this huge gulf between finance and engineering orgs at a lot of companies, and it's even harder when they don't speak the same language. So we find getting them to speak the same language, getting them to use the same ledger that has accounting concepts built into it makes a huge difference.
And it's even more important at a company who part of your business is moving money, because engineers very often have powers that can make really material changes to how money is moved in the company.
Exactly, yeah, and you're moving so much more money as well.
Yeah. So when you overhauled your ledgers and moved over to Modern Treasury, were there any unexpected use cases that you needed to support?
Yeah, I think we've covered some of them. I mean, really, like, a lot of them come down to reporting, and a lot of them are about, like, I think being able to know it. It's like, is it unexpected? Well, a lot of these use cases were expected, but I think the devil's in the details when it comes to ledgering, and so I think that it's really been a process. I guess the ability to work so directly with all of the concepts in Modern Treasury through things like annotations and reporting, and has like been kind of like a great catch-all for if you want a ledger, but you need to still do your business and orchestrate all of the complex flows in your system. Modern Treasury is going to have a concept for you that you can really still use. Yeah, I think reconciliation was in some ways the most unexpected. I think I mentioned that earlier. Like being able to do many-to-one or one-to-many reconciliation against a ledger, against a bank account, against ACH payments. It was like a problem that we never even knew we were going to have a solution for, and that was ready-made. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned before, I think the unexpected case for us was handling those additional contracts. But I think throughout that whole process, it enabled us to move closer to our accounting department.
Yeah.
Some of the coolest use cases we see in general are with custom currencies. So Built Rewards, for example, tracks rewards points in our ledger. You wouldn't think maybe that's something that you need accounting for, but when you're issuing rewards points, you're basically acting like a bank, but with rewards points, and you need to make sure that you're not creating or destroying points. So we see a lot of cool different use cases around custom currencies that can track anything that you want.
We've talked a little bit about that with end-to-end ledgering. And so when we brought on Modern Treasury, we were fairly tightly scoped in how we implemented ledgers, so that we essentially just replaced that part of our system that tracked what we owed our partners. But we weren't tracking through ledgers any of the money kind of leading up to that point. So when we're taking a consumer payment, when we're granting credits in our system. So we've been working on basically towards a project with Koji that will extend ledgers from being at just the very tail end of our process to encompass the whole kind of front to back. And so I think that's going to give us much better confidence and kind of raise the visibility for the entire company on what's happening with our money flows. Right now, we have that, but it's all through replication into Tableau, and there's delays, there's different kind of questions, and getting the engineering team involved to kind of question it. But I think by kind of completing the picture, end-to-end ledgers will kind of allow us to kind of take the pressure off my team a little bit, so that everyone has that same view.
Yeah, it goes back to the earlier comments about, do you, as ClassPass or as Splitwise, do you want your engineering team building and maintaining ledgers, or building for your customers? Right. How have your views of ledgering changed since implementing Modern Treasury?
Ledgers is good.
I think I I have like a more healthy appreciation for the accounting primitives, I guess is what it's like a weird way of saying, accounting is good. And it wasn't that I thought accounting was bad, but I think that if you are trying to track an asset, like that was or an obligation, right? Like that's why accounting was invented, I think. Maybe that's a fake history of accounting, but yeah. I definitely, credits and debits being in a separate database is the kind of like hilarious mistake that I could imagine I could have made in before my experience implementing ledgers with modern Treasury.
Not just you.
Right. And I think it's a credit to the thoughtfulness of the design of the product that seeing the constraints that accountants work with as an architectural principle is like really cool. I think that's probably been the biggest impact to my brain, like my ledger brain. It's great. It's really been really positive.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'd just add to that. I think John and Doug both have amazing engineering and operations teams working with them, and it's cool to see how they rethink what's possible when they have a really transparent real-time ledger. So one example of that is, I think Splitwise Pay is a great example of ledgering being another payment rail. We're talking all today about different payment rails, FedNow, RTP, ACH, but when you pay someone in Splitwise Pay, that's actually an in-network instant transaction that's transferring value. And so when you have a really performant ledger, you can actually add that payment rail to your quiver of options as you're having users pay each other.
Awesome. That's our show. Thank you all for coming up. Thanks for having us.